All right. Hello, hello, hello. We should have sound. I see people in the chat saying that I have a habit of having a bad mic. Well, it should not be there. We should have sound. So, hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Friday Night Live. Let's see who is in the house. We have Talisman, Squid Monkey, Q, Jito463. I have not seen you here in a while, so hello. Blue River Cat BS in California, Mark M, John Morgan, who was again the MVP this week. We have Cap and Mac, David, Neil, James, California, Jesse Meek, Nomad0036. I feel like I haven't seen you in a bit either. My goodness. Aaron Miller, Brian Blackwell. We have Liberty Dog in the background. Let's see. Tristan Goodrich. There is something wrong with this, actually, because it's telling me... Oh, this is interesting. Are we actually live? Okay. Trashman's intro just came through, so we must actually be live. Something is wrong with the YouTube studio where it's telling me no one is here. So, something is wrong, but I'm just going to keep going. Let's see. Tristan Goodrich is in the house. We have Loves a 1911, Fred Hill, General James. Let's see. Brian Blackwell. Who else is in? Rick Kinnison. It's bizarre. It still says no one is here. Tim Dasinger. I see you guys. So I don't know what YouTube is doing. The Autistic Veteran Glaucoma. That's a good one. I like that. Dan O'Neill, Gregory M, Mr. Twisted 72, Tim Dasinger, Chester Thomas. Hello there. Dogleg, J.R. Swackhammer, Missing Link Outdoors, Satos Blakeler, something like that. M.H. Kofi, Rumdog 117, Charles Artificer, Red Dune, Joseph M. Tate, Norris 5947, Gaddington, X, Doug, just Doug, J.P. Morgan, Carolina Infidel, David Dole. We have Noel 72, M.H. Kafey, CVA Buck, Matthew Malloy, Nelson Fisher, Satos, Bruce Johnson, Merkdolf, and I think we're at the bottom here. So hello everyone. All right, so Paul Rome says that there's 153 viewers that he can see on YouTube. So Angel Design says back in the dollhouse with some rocket ships. And we have Adam Key Sinclair says just saw your channel first time subbed. Well, hello. Hello. So, well, then you're new here. So every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, we do a live stream. It used to just be called Liberty Doll's House, but try as I might, I couldn't stop myself from swearing, and that's why we call it now Live and Uncensored. So that people that are afraid of the F word don't come here and get mad, basically. All right, well, let's get into it. Trashman is here with the intro. Live from the Riot Nation, it's the lady who is tired of show trials, faux outrage, and is rumored to be the one who noted that liberals like their standard to be like their genders, fluid. And with that, here's Dolly. It just occurred to me that I should let people know. I never see these ahead of time, so I never know what he's going to write. And it's always a game to try to keep a straight face through the whole thing. Let's see. I'll fix this. This is a little funky here. I had to move my camera around to move the lighting around a bit. All right, and we have a super chat in from Alec30 Glock Baldwin. Says Supreme Court based as fuck. Love the new test for 2A laws. I am very surprised by it, frankly. You know, it's been so long since the Supreme Court has actually agreed to take on 2A cases, let alone since the gun rights community has had an actual win that I did not see that coming. As the left would probably say, I did not see that coming. As you know, of course, they have revitalized the claims that Clarence Thomas is somehow a white nationalist, white supremacist, whatever. I guess there's some fake information about him going around and ways in which he should be, reasons that he should be impeached that are fake reasons. And Nina Jankowicz, the head of the Department of Misinformation, has actually been retweeting that misinformation on Twitter. No surprises there. But I am very surprised. I would have liked if the Supreme Court then took that, one-step test that they put in the Bruen decision. I would have really liked if they had said like, okay, well, let's take on these 2A cases and apply this new test or this new rule to it, because they were specifically waiting on those cases until after Bruen was decided. The fact that they vacated what the lower courts had said and it had decided to just kick it back to them instead and say, hey, follow this test. I mean, it could go either way. As I said in my video earlier today, the left would really have to go through some big mental gymnastics and mumbo jumbo to try and justify the things that are in those lawsuits, like the Hawaii open carry issue, the magazine bans. They'll really have to go through some big hoops to try and justify those laws. But we have California, and I mentioned this in my Bruen video, that already they've said, all right, well, we have to change our process a little bit because May issue is no longer a thing, but they are still fortifying this idea that you have to be of good moral character. And in the press release that the AG put out, it was even suggested that a person's political views should be taken into account as to whether or not they can be trusted with a carry license. Now, it didn't come right out and say political views in those words because, well, that would be a First Amendment violation right there, and they're already kind of fucked right now. But it said it in a lot more words than that. It says basically good moral character and then lists out all the things that the state of California thinks constitutes good moral character, which is, of course, agreeing with them. But that being said, there always is the possibility, I suppose, of the lower courts being like, well, the Supreme Court vacated this, but we're going to uphold it anyways for XYZ reason, and then it being appealed and going back to the Supreme Court and being struck down. The Supreme Court justices that are there for life, so Clarence Thomas isn't going anywhere, Amy Coney Barrett isn't going anywhere, Roberts isn't going anywhere. Though there is talk of packing the court, there's talk of trying to impeach Supreme Court justices. AOC is talking some crazy shit out of her ass right now, and I actually have a video coming out about that. I am on a roll this last week. If you guys didn't notice, it's always a race against time to see how much time I have before the baby really protests that she needs to sleep or needs me to give her my undivided attention. But I was hoping to get that out today, but it'll be out tomorrow because it's actually almost done already. But man, there are a lot of people that have shown that they don't have any understanding of civics and have the intelligence of about a strawberry, like we said last week. But yes, the Supreme Court currently is based as fuck, and the liberals, the left, is going nuts. They don't know what hit them. Trashman says, hey, Dolly, today is the first since the 1930s where U.S. hosiers don't need no stinking permit to carry a sidearm. Hooray, hooray, hooray. Bravo. All right, let's see. I see that there was another super chat that came in. Mr. Twisted72 says, California dictator Gavin Gruesome has vowed to sign all 16 proposed gun bills into law. Really? I have not heard about this, actually. What are these gun bills? Gun bill California. Let's see. Oh. Oh, well, according to the Sacramento Bee, as of 2 hours ago, he did sign them. So let's see. Looks like we have one about liability insurance. Well, we'll see. We'll see what MSN has to say about it, actually. So thank you for the heads up there. Let's see what they have to say right now. All right, so according to the Sacramento Bee, reposted by MSN, Gavin Newsom signs new gun safety laws targeting illegal weapons and marketing to kids. What gun company markets to kids? I mean, there's the little like Daisy BB guns, and who is it? Is it like Ruger that has the little tiny single shot 22 that comes in pink that we will be getting our child as soon as she's old enough? But I mean, none of that is even like marketed towards kids. Oh, real quick, I see Alec 30 Glock Baldwin says, "What's up with the black tape on your arm?" This is a sprained finger, and this is kinesiology tape. So, my finger has actually been hurting for about 2 months. I didn't do anything to it except we bed share. And, so I had my arm curled around the baby all night, and I woke up and it was messed up one day. And I was at my chiropractor on Tuesday, and I noticed that, like, you can wiggle it, and this one doesn't wiggle. So I was like, hey, doc, what's up with this? And he felt around and examined it and told me I have a sprained finger. There's not really anything that they can do for it except wait for the swelling to go down, and gave me kinesiology tape to help with the pain. And actually, it's really great, except I've done a lot of dishes. Not quite barefoot in the kitchen, but pretty close, and so it's coming off. So kinesiology tape, that is what is up with the tape on my finger. Anyway, so Gavin Newsom, I really don't know of anyone that specifically markets guns towards children, but okay. So let's see. So he signed into law 2 California bills to further restrict ghost guns in the state and prohibit the marketing of certain guns such as semi-auto weapons to children. Who the fuck is marketing guns to children? I would love to see those ads and those commercials, because I bet they are exquisite. From our schools to our parks to our homes, our kids deserve to be safe. In California, we're making that a reality, Newsom said Friday in a news release, which is ironic because there's homeless people and hypodermic needles and literal human feces everywhere in California. As the Supreme Court rolls back important gun safety protections. Man, the propaganda is strong. And states across the country treat gun violence as inevitable. California is doubling down on common sense gun safety measures that save lives. Okay. Yeah, because like Bruin is rolling back gun safety protections. Man, these people just talk out of their butts. Okay. Experts predict new legal challenges to the California law that requires residents to give strong reasons to local law enforcement officials why they need to carry a gun in public. All right, so we have Assembly Bill 1621 to further restrict privately manufactured firearms, commonly called ghost guns in California. Man, I mean, California, is there anything you guys are even allowed to have anymore? Like, there's nothing left, right? And he also signed Assembly Bill 2571, which prohibits marketing of certain categories of firearms to minors, such as the advertising of a JR-15. I have never heard of this before, which is an AR-15 meant for kids, adorned with cartoon child skulls with pacifiers. What is this? Have you guys seen this? What is this? What is this? Nuh-uh. Really? Okay. So we have a JR-15 rifle. Where are the cartoon skulls? Okay. Oh, so there's cartoon skulls on the box, not on the gun itself. Okay. Oh, that's actually really cute. Oh, okay. So there's a cartoon skull with a pacifier. Okay. So it's got a bolt release. That's really cute. What caliber is this? So, okay, so it was shown at the SHOT Show this year for the first time. And it's a scaled-down replica of the AR platform with youth shooters in mind. It's a 22. Okay. See, but this isn't being marketed to kids. It's being marketed to parents that have kids. So it's an 80% scaled down AR. Oh, it's really cute. So the magazines are single mag 10 round and 15 round, and it's a 22. This is no different than a standard 22, except it looks like an AR. Okay. Oh my god, it's so adorable. With a safety knob. That's so cute. That's so cute. Okay, we learned something new today. So, apparently, in California, the company that makes this can't market it towards children, which they never did, I'm guessing. So, we learned something new today. Let's see. I know that there's a lot of super chats coming in, so let me let me grab these, and we're gonna jump into it. We have a fun voicemail from Joe Biden this week that proves that he did know about Hunter's dealings in China. We've got the SCOTUS EPA decision. We've got Joe Biden saying that Americans are just gonna have to suck it up forever on the gas prices. We got some fun stuff to discuss today. Let's see. Thank you, Deranged Lunatic, for the super chat. Tom Bowersock says, "Keep being awesome, Mrs. Doll." Thank you, thank you. Let's see. Who else? Chester Thomas, thank you for the super chat. Mr. Twisted72 says, "Gruesome will be running for POTUS next." Oh, wow. Wouldn't that be fun? Because I feel like he could get annihilated. Actually, a lot of the big political pundits right now are saying that the Democrats are freaking out because they don't have anyone to run. And there was actually an article that came out the other day that it was called like Joe Biden irked that Democrats won't take yes for an answer. He keeps saying that he's going to run again, and they just keep ignoring him and asking other people to run, like AOC, for example, and they don't really have a solid candidate right now. Some people are even floating Hillary Clinton again, and her polling numbers right now are even worse than Biden's, so that would be hilarious. There is some speculation that they might just pick up a throwaway candidate to put out there and focus instead on, what would that be, 2028 at that point? Because they've got no one, and they keep saying, oh, you know, most of Americans support all of these Democratic policies. And some of that is showing up in the polls, but then you always have to ask, well, okay, who are they actually polling? Where do these polls come from? And in fact, if you look at individual states, Republican support is up right now. It skyrocketed, actually, since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, because that is something that Republicans said that they've been wanting for, 40, 50, 60 years now, and they finally actually accomplished something, which, unfortunately, is pretty rare. So, yeah, I mean, they might try to get him to run. That would certainly be interesting. There's a comic, Brett Palla. He's friends with JP Sears and is on his videos sometimes. He's got some great videos of Gavin Newsom, and it really illustrates how arrogant and creepy the guy is. Creed says, the leak of California gun owners' personal data. Yes, I did a video on that yesterday, actually. There is a video up about that, Short version is California had a database. They've been collecting gun owner info, basically. And last year, Gavin Newsom signed a bill into law that requires that information to be given to universities and research facilities in the name of researching gun violence. And they had this database that he said all of California will be able to look up information about guns in California, and someone somewhere fucked up and accidentally made the files with all the personal information of gun owners available for download to the public, and it was up there for 36 hours before it was taken down, and I believe the website is actually still down at this point, and they just said oops. And that's about it. There's more details in the video if you guys want to check out the video that I put out yesterday on that. But that's the basic gist of it. But please always go watch the video for the algorithm. Mr. Twisted said bolt actions, lever actions, and single shots are not restricted yet. Okay. Wow. Really, I mean, I remember that there was for a while, the folks in California were trying to get around the rules with the bullet button. The bullet button. And then a bunch of politicians railed against that again, proving that they know nothing about anything, and tried to say that it makes the gun shoot faster or something. So dumb. So dumb. Q says, where's the Hello Kitty AR? But do any children actually like Hello Kitty? I've only ever known adults that like Hello Kitty, so I don't know about that. Jito says, I'm 45 years old and I kind of want one of those Jagar 15s for myself. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. I like it. It's cute. Henry Pierce, thank you for the super chat. Jesse says, yeah, an 8-year-old can go to the local gun shop and just drop a few bennies and walk out with one. A youth model or carbine model Ruger 10/22 is virtually the same damn thing. Yeah, it is. It's just the furniture that's different. That's it. In the 10/22, remember, this was a few years ago before Dick's was awful and they were actually still selling guns. They had a special on Black Friday of the Ruger 10/22 takedown, and it was the Boy Scout edition, because I bought one for my husband for Christmas. They had a Boy Scouts of America edition Ruger 10/22. No one gave a crap about that. Where's California's law about, Boy Scouts and 10/22s? That's just so dumb. They're just looking. It's always constant virtue signaling of looking like they're doing something. All of these bills are just doing something bills that never actually do anything at all except hinder law-abiding citizens and price people out of gun ownership, which I guess is the ultimate goal, right? Is less people owning guns. Fred Hill says the snowflakes are coming out of the woodwork. Oh my God, they are. It's delicious. I just want to put them all on a snow cone. Matthew Mitten says, unable to send. If so, consider intermittent fasting. Dr. Eric Berg, the ailment you mentioned is likely resolved. Search for Eric Berg. So I actually used to do intermittent fasting. And women can't do it the same way men can, actually. As a woman, because our hormones are different and the way that we hold onto fat because of our hormones is different. So women really, if they're going to do intermittent fasting, they can't go more than 14 hours without having hormonal effects. And you really can only do it twice a week. But I am a nursing mother, so I can't do any kind of fasting. I need to actually eat an extra 500 calories a day than I normally would to feed my baby. So that makes things different. Ricky L. Hendricks says, have seen several youth-sized guns before. Next long gun I get will be youth-size since I am short and have small hands. Yeah. See, there's a difference between marketing things towards children and things being youth-size. Steve Pat says, I loved when Bass Pro Shop came out with ads saying we still sell rifles because we're not dicks. Yes, that was so good. So good. Princess Marlena just wants us all to know that she hates Matthew McConaughey. All right, all right. Okay, Brian Blackwell says, you got hormones. Yes. Well, so again, I am not a biologist, but one of the things that makes a woman, as far as I know, is the hormones that happen when you get pregnant and then give birth and then nurse a baby with your breasts. That's a thing. The left will deny it, but it is in fact a thing. All right, so now that we caught up to all of those initial super chats, and I don't know why you just ate McDonald's, but I can't really talk crap because Chick-fil-A, the Jesus chicken, is amazing. All right, so we're going to jump into some of this stuff right now. So this story is a few days old now, but whatever. I haven't seen a whole lot out about it, but we have a new voicemail that has been leaked initially by the Daily Mail, actually. It is a voicemail from Joe Biden to Hunter Biden, and it talks about, well, it doesn't explicitly say proof that Joe Biden knew about Hunter Biden's dealings with China and all of that, but it is a voicemail where it basically says, like, hey, it's a voicemail that's basically like, hey, I read this article, it's coming out tomorrow, I think we're in the clear, etc., etc. Well, it'll be explained here. So the voicemail actually says, hey pal, it's Dad. It's 8:15 on Wednesday night. If you get a chance, just give me a call. Nothing urgent. I just wanted to talk to you. I thought the article released online, it's going to be printed tomorrow in the Times, was good. Biden continued, I think you're clear. And anyway, if you get a chance, give me a call. I love you. And so the Daily Mail and the New York Post apparently were able to sort of cross-reference the date of the voicemail and the articles that were out at the Times at the time. That sounds a little redundant, and it shows basically it was an article about some of Hunter Biden's dealings, and there is some speculation that the voicemail could be fake because it's Joe Biden actually stringing a couple of sentences together, but keep in mind the voicemail's actually from 2018. So that was 4 years ago, so he wasn't quite as, like, dementia-brained back then. So Joe Biden called his son Hunter in late 2018 to discuss a New York Times article detailing the younger Biden's dealings with a Chinese oil tycoon accused of economic crimes, telling him, I think you're clear, according to a report on Monday. And actually, Daily Mail, do they have the actual voicemail? Let's see. Do they have it where we can listen to it? Oh, yes, they do. All right, so we're gonna do it here.
Hey, pals.
Let me see if I can.
Hey, pals, Dad. It's 8:15 on Wednesday night. If you get a chance, give me a call. Nothing urgent. Just want to talk to you. I thought the article, at least the thing online, it's going to be printed tomorrow in the Times, was good. I think it's clear. And anyway, if you get a chance, give me a call. I love you.
So I don't know if you guys. Oh, and we're gonna skip that autoplay because that's definitely a naked Hunter Biden that was there for a second. So that is the voicemail. Actually, we'll read this article because this was the original report on it, because I believe actually the Daily Mail has the Hunter Biden laptop at this point. So according to the Daily Mail, I think you're clear. Voicemail from Joe Biden to Hunter about New York Times report on his Chinese business dealings proves he did speak to his son about his relationship with criminal dubbed the spy chief of China. And so the big thing about this is it catches Joe Biden in yet another lie, because he claimed that he never knew anything about Hunter Biden's business and he never spoke to him about any of it. Yet we have a voicemail right here. As Timmer because I'm assuming that is a South Park reference, says, but Orange Man bad. Yeah. Tristan, sorry to make you puke, buddy. So here is the main bullet points of the article. Joe Biden called Hunter in December of 2018, saying he wanted to talk to him after reading the New York Times story about Hunter's dealing with the Chinese oil giant CEFC. Files on Hunter's abandoned laptop, previously disclosed by Daily Mail, show that he struck a deal with the Chinese company worth millions of dollars. The Times 2018 story pointed out CEFC's chairman Jianming had been arrested in China, and his lieutenant Patrick Ho had been convicted of bribery. Hunter accidentally recorded himself referring to Ho as the spy chief of China. I didn't even know that part. After seeing the story online, Joe called Hunter and left a voicemail. Says what the voicemail said. The message flies in the face of the president's repeated denials that he ever discussed Hunter's overseas business dealings with his son. And now remember, so now we have this voicemail proving that Joe talked to Hunter about his business dealings. We have, we learned, oh goodness, what is time? A few weeks ago, a couple months ago, I don't even know at this point. There is no such thing anymore as time and space in stay-at-home mom land. But we learned that there was a linked bank account. We learned that there were some other emails not previously disclosed that linked Joe Biden to some of this crap. And we have the fact that Joe Biden flew his son out to China on Air Force Two. All in all, it's not looking great. Nothing is ever going to happen about it, likely. There are some folks saying that if the Republicans win the midterms, that they're going to try to use some of this stuff to impeach Joe Biden, but I mean, I would imagine it would be kind of just like a bread and circus show like the left did to Trump. The Republicans would be attempting to do the same thing to Joe Biden. The left will never let it happen. It probably won't go anywhere. But, I mean, Joe Biden has certainly done enough at this point that he should be impeached over. Let alone what he has done to the American nation in the span of how many months now? 16, 18, whatever it is. Even taking that out of the equation, everything going on with Hunter Biden, the business dealings in China, the quid pro quo in Ukraine, all of it are definitely impeachable offenses at this point. But I mean, at the very least, things should be investigated. Probably not going to happen. So those are basically the bullet points of that. It says, after the Times story was published, Hunter's friends texted him, teasing him about Jim's indiscreet comment to the newspaper that linked Hunter to Patrick Ho. Let's see. Devin Archer, Hunter's longtime best friend and business partner, who is now serving a year in jail for defrauding a Native American tribe, wrote to him the next day, "Nice quote from Uncle Jimmy. I hope you thanked him for that." Oh boy, oh boy. The quote, they're talking about some quotes by Jim Biden, which is Joe's brother, and damn, they really look alike. It's like a time capsule right there. So that is it with the Joe Biden voicemail. Let's see. I see we had another super chat, a couple that came in. Our doc, thank you for the super chat. And Jesse Meek says, 4 years after I was born, the school I went to as a child was still teaching marksmanship as a class. They shot out at the track and field where they had a backdrop 1 damn year before I started school. Wow. I mean, it sucks that that's not a thing that you can do in school anymore. All right, I see folks are talking in the chat about gas prices. Actually, first we're gonna I just want to touch on this. Some of the reactions to the Joe Biden voicemail here. So, former Justice Department prosecutor Jim Trusty called the situation a huge integrity test for the FBI and for Attorney General Merrick Garland. Legal experts have said that it should warrant a federal probe. Republican lawmakers vowed congressional hearings into the matter. It says, will they walk away from powerful evidence? Will they come up with a soft plea, like a tax charge that does not remotely capture the actual wrongdoing? Or will they treat Hunter Biden like any other white-collar defendant in the federal system? George Washington University law professor Jonathan Turley said the recording only magnifies the concerns over the failure of Attorney General Merrick Garland to appoint a special counsel with broad investigative authority. Man, he just looks so creepy. The record is now replete with references to President Biden and contradictions of his public denials. The concern is that a plea bargain could effectively foreclose further inquiry or prosecution for possible crimes related to influence peddling. We have a representative out of Georgia tweeting "smoking gun," referencing the Daily Mail report. And when Hunter Biden began trending ahead of Tuesday's hearing of the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, Heiss added, even big tech can't ignore President Biden's Hunter problem anymore. It's time for a hearing. I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, I don't have any confidence in it at this point, but it would be nice. President Biden has repeatedly denied speaking to Hunter about his business dealings, but the evidence now is insurmountable. When Republicans take over the House in January, we will thoroughly investigate Hunter Biden's business dealings and President Biden's participation in his son's activities. I hope that they win the House, but again, who knows at this point. I think if there's any voting integrity left, the Republicans will win the House, but who knows? I mean, maybe Biden will decide, like, elections aren't actually fair and election meddling and Russia, blah, blah, blah. Who knows? Who knows? Brian Blackwell says people are already having to look to see if they still have a catalytic converter. Gito says, no, the smoking gun was the one he left in the trash can by the school. Right. So he left the gun in the trash can by the school. Well, his wife did, right? His wife took the gun and threw it in a trash can. But then as we saw on a live stream a few weeks ago now, there was another picture that surfaced of him holding another gun. Actually, it was a video, I believe, and that one was a revolver. It was two different guns. So now there is proof that he owned, or at least had in his possession, two different firearms when he should be a prohibited person, unless he lied on the 4473, which obviously he did. We have seen the 4473. Super Spandex Tights is sending the super chat in. Oh, that's interesting. So on here, on YouTube, it's in pounds. But over on OBS, it comes out in dollars and cents. So that's pretty cool. It says, inflation will not change the way I live life. Good for you. Good for you. Let's talk about that inflation. So if you want to hear a load of bullshit today, I don't know if you guys were able to actually hear the voicemail when I played it. But we have this. So Biden was in Spain recently, and he was asked a question about gas prices in the U.S. by a U.S. journalist, and he had a whole bunch of crock of shit to say. The short version is he was like, oh, well, we could do these things, but blah, 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 Russia. Like, on the one hand, he says, well, we could do these things to lower gas prices, but then he says that gas prices are the way they are purely because of Russia. Now, yes, Russia invading Ukraine definitely is affecting prices of some goods and services, but the U.S. also put sanctions on Russia and is no longer accepting Russian oil, and neither is most of Europe at this point, on top of inflation pressure that we already had because of Joe Biden's policies. And it's funny because he and the left claim that oil prices have nothing to do with the president, but in this clip, he talks about things that they could do to lower gas prices. So I'm going to make sure that the closed captions are on just in case, and I'll play this for you guys.
If we do these things, it's estimated we could bring down tomorrow, if Congress agreed and the states agreed, we could bring down the price of oil about $1 a gallon at the pump, in that range. And so we could have immediate relief in terms of the reduction of the elimination of temporary elimination of the gas tax. And so I think there's a lot of things we can do and we will do, but the bottom line is, ultimately, the reason why gas prices are up is because of Russia. Russia. The reason why the food crisis exists is because of Russia. Russia not allowing grain to get out of Ukraine. And so that's the way in which I think we should move, and I think it would have a positive.
Do we still have internet? Okay, I think we do. We have a thunderstorm here, so... Well, you get the gist. He was saying all of that. And then, so he said, well, these are all of these things that we could do, but it's Russia's fault. And then he said that Americans will just have to put up with it, is essentially what it is. So here's the article. American drivers will have to endure gas prices for as long as it takes for Ukraine to defeat Russia's invasion, President Biden told reporters in Spain on Thursday. As long as it takes, he said. At the conclusion of this week's NATO summit in Madrid, the president was asked by New York Times reporter Jim Tankersley about the surging price of oil as a result of Western sanctions on Russia in response to its February 24th assault. I am glad that there is finally someone at the New York Times asking some of these hard questions, and it's not just like Peter Ducey at the White House, or Ducey, however you say his name, anymore, asking these questions. I mean, for a long time, he was the only one doing any real reporting and asking anyone at the White House real questions. So I'm glad there was someone at the New York Times that actually stepped up to the plate. So his question to Biden, he said, the war has pushed prices up. Oil could go as high as $200 a barrel, some analysts think. How long is it fair to expect American drivers and drivers around the world to pay that premium for this war? And Biden said, as long as it takes. Russia cannot, in fact, defeat Ukraine and move beyond Ukraine. This is a critical position for the world. Here we are. Why do we have NATO? I told Putin that, in fact, if we were to move against Ukraine, we would move to strengthen NATO. We would move to strengthen NATO across the board. But not only that, is he said, let me see if they have the exact quote. He said that it is important because the liberal world order is at stake. Excuse me, what? So number one, when was there any kind of declaration of war by Congress on Russia or Ukraine that the American people have to suffer for? And number two, like, what is this about a liberal world order? Where is that? Here we go. What you heard from the president today was a clear articulation of the stakes. This is according to Brian Deese. He is Biden's economic advisor. He said, this is about the future of the liberal world order, and we have to stand firm. Excuse me, what? What liberal world order? What does that even mean? They're starting to sound like Alex Jones up there or something. He says that the future of the liberal world order is more important than Americans not being able to afford gas. What do you say to those families that say, listen, we can't afford to pay $4.85 a gallon for months, if not years? The director of the National Economic Council was asked on CNN on Thursday. And he said that, again, he just echoed Biden and said, as long as it takes, because of the future of the liberal world order. He went on, at the same time, what I would say to that family and Americans across the country is you have a president and an administration that is going to do everything in its power to blunt those price increases and bring those prices down. Well, clearly not, because Biden just got up in Spain and said that, nope, we're just going to keep these prices as long as it takes. And even this guy says, well, the liberal world order, whatever the fuck that is more important than Americans at home and the impact this is having on them and their wallets. So no, Mr. Deese, whoever you are, we don't have a president and administration that's going to do everything they can to blunt those price increases and bring them down, because in fact, it is Biden's policies that have really been nailing this even further. He shut down the pipelines. He's not opening up lands to drilling. He's not unleashing American oil. He has made us more energy dependent on other countries than we were before he took office. So no, that's not what's happening at all. This is just like a cotton candy fluff that they're giving people to try to shut them up. And of course, folks over on Twitter, because that's where people get their political quotes from, now says, it's not a this or that scenario, Mr. President. Open up federal lands for oil and gas drilling, end your regulatory war on energy, and start lowering gas prices for Americans. This is your price hike. But again, the left says there's nothing that Biden can do because Biden hasn't impacted prices at all. Meanwhile, look at this. This is a picture of a Chevron out in LA. $7.85 for regular. That is just awful. That is sad. That is terrible. I am shocked that I actually saw $4.17 here the other day. That's the lowest I've seen in a while. I think we're about in the 450s though. According to this article, oh, not this one. Is it this one? So according to this, the national average today is $4.82. And I mean, California, Alaska, Nevada, and Hawaii have it the worst. I'm happy to be in this blue area here. So, I mean, it's what, like 10, 20 cents lower, the average, than it was a couple of weeks ago, but it is still not great. It is still getting close to $100 to fill my tank. So I'm glad that I don't drive very many places. So the lowest gas prices, average South Carolina, is $4.36 right now, according to AAA. And of course, this guy formerly worked on the Obama campaign. He worked with the Obama administration, and he worked for the Center for American Progress before joining Hillary Clinton's campaign in 2008. So this guy is great. Last week, he said that the way to decrease inflation was to tax the rich and reform prescription drug prices. What is that going to do? If you taxed the top 1%, right, of the U.S. wealth bracket at 100%, you wouldn't even be able to fund the government for a month. So how is that going to stop inflation? And this lady, what's her name? Jean-Pierre or something? The new press secretary for Biden, she got up there a couple weeks ago and was talking about inflation and how taxing the rich is going to stop inflation. But she was pressed on it and said, well, how will raising taxes on rich people stop inflation? And she wasn't able to put anything together to answer that. Like, there's no way, like, the two things don't, like, there's no correlation between them. Taxing rich people isn't going to change grocery prices. That's not how it works. That's not how economics works. But he says lowering prescription drug costs is one piece Okay. Lowering utility costs by providing tax incentives for energy is another piece, but equally important, lowering the federal deficit by enacting long overdue tax reform. Well, yeah, you can lower the federal deficit, but there is, I forget what it's called, but there's basically this economic theory, and you can see it on both sides. The right uses it and the left uses it, and it's basically a demonstration of the tax brackets versus how much revenue the federal government can take in. And it reaches a point where the government can charge, like, for lack of a better word, the highest amount of taxes and get the highest amount of revenue. And we are at that phase right now. If they tax above that bracket, then they actually start losing revenue. So you can't tax people any higher than they already are and actually get any money out of it. Like, it wouldn't be sustaining. There's no way to do that. So he said this on CBS, so of course they're not going to ask any questions, and he blamed big beef, big pork, and big poultry for rising costs. Well, okay. Let's look at that. I mean, you could argue that in a way, that it is the fault of big beef, big pork, and big poultry, which are phrases I've never heard before, but you could call it their fault in so much as they were forced to shut down because of COVID and production stopped. That was the fault of the governors in the states where they had their production plants shutting things down. Yes, David Neal. I believe that is the Laffer curve. Thank you. It is the Laffer curve. Thank you. Mr. Hellspawn got it as well. Thanks, guys. So these plants were forced to shut down. So what happens is you had demand and no supply. So what happens there? Prices increase, number one. Number two, inflation of printing the damn money. We have been in quantitative easing for how long now? Like, it's been years and years. And, the Fed just keeps printing more money out of thin air, which devalues the dollar, which then means that it takes more dollars to buy the things that it used to take less dollars to buy. That's just the way that it works. That's inflation. And of course, then you have Biden that kept sending out these relief checks. And to be fair, Trump is also responsible for some of that. He did not shut down the economy. He left it up to the governors, which was the right choice. State rights and all of that. The governors that shut down made the wrong choice, but nonetheless, that's what those people of those states wanted in a lot of the cases. So Trump did play a role in some of these stimulus checks that he put out, but Joe Biden came out and he amplified these policies ridiculously. And, shutting down the pipeline, as I said, the sanctions that he put on Russia, all of this other crap that he's doing, it's just a show. It's a puppet show. He's focusing so much on things like diversity and equity and making sure that the Supreme Court justice he nominates is a black woman, rather than on actually running the country with any coherent economic policy or foreign policy or any coherent policy, actually, while we're at it. Someone said the empanada index. Right, and Captain Max says food plants keep burning down as well. 2 were struck by planes? Oh, I didn't hear about that. Oh, God. That's just ridiculous. Indiana Troy says, I'm just glad my crypto is doing so well. It'll go back up eventually. I mean, it always does. It always does. But, man, stuff's rough. I'm actually going to see if I can find this Laffer curve for you guys, so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Here we go. Let's see. some random website, but this is basically what it is. So we have the Laffer curve. So this is our tax revenue, and this is the tax rate. So when you get to a revenue maximizing point where you get the highest amount of tax revenue with the highest tax rate is like here. We're already at that. I believe this rate is like 30%. And anything beyond that, then you start getting declining revenue. So yeah, they could tax these millionaires and billionaires at 100%, but they're not really going to get much out of it. Especially like, okay, so you tax these people at 100%. So say that someone made $1 million, you're going to tax them $1 million for making $1 million. That's what some of the people on the left are saying. Tax them at 100%. So you're going to take away all of their money and expect them to still contribute to the economy, still contribute with their jobs and their companies, because people that are millionaires and billionaires, like, most of them aren't just sitting around on that money doing nothing. They have companies that have employees and make goods or provide services, and they go and spend their money on, like, I don't know, fancy suits and yachts or something. That's money that's going back into the economy. They're not just all sitting with all of their money in a vault like Scrooge McDuck. Like, that's not realistic, but, you know, people don't know anything about anything. I wouldn't even, I mean, I might sit on all of that like Scrooge McDuck if that was me, but it doesn't have the percentage point, but the percentage point varies depending on if you're asking the left or the right, but I believe it is around 30%. That is like the highest that you can tax with the max amount of revenue. Okay, let's see. So we got that about the gas prices. Wow, it's already 8 o'clock and the baby has not flipped out yet. So pending that she might flip out soon. I can't hear her, but it might be coming. I'll take a poll. Do we want to talk about the EPA ruling by the Supreme Court, or do we want to talk about this ridiculous story about Trump grabbing the wheel in his limo? Let's see what you guys think, because we might not get to both of them. So I want to at least make sure we get to one, so I'm going to see which one you guys want to do. Meanwhile, thank you, hello to the new subscribers, and Human Filth for renewing your membership. Man, it sucks that there is this lag. DuckTales, yes, Mike Fabush got the reference. Brian Blackwell says they'll move more companies to Mexico. Yeah, I mean, that's what'll happen. More companies will move to other countries. EPA. Mike Fabush says limo bro gotta. Okay. Grand Theft Trump says Paul Rome. All right. So most people are saying EPA. So we'll do the EPA, and then if we have time, we'll do the Hutchinson story. So we're going to start out with the Daily Wire because that's the factual reporting, and then we'll go over to what folks like The Guardian say because they're always a fun time. All right, so this is from the Daily Wire. Supreme Court rules against EPA, limits agency's authority to regulate carbon dioxide emissions, which The Guardian says, we will jump over real quick, it's condemning everyone alive. Because people don't understand anything about how the government is supposed to work in this country. On Thursday, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled in West Virginia v. the Environmental Protection Agency that the EPA does not have the constitutional authority to regulate carbon dioxide emissions from power plants in order to bring about a transition away from coal energy throughout the country because it was not specifically granted that power by Congress. Wow! Imagine that! The Supreme Court actually wants the government to follow the rules and pass these things through Congress the way that they're supposed to. Same thing happened when the CDC tried to do their vax mandates, and OSHA tried to do their vax mandates, and the courts were like, well, hey, no one gave you the constitutional authority to do that. Congress didn't say that you could do that, so you can't do that. Those are the rules. By the way, I do want to point out that the EPA, that is so worried about carbon emissions, will chase people through the woods on ATVs to get them to stop riding bikes or dirt bikes or do whatever it is that they're doing in the woods. This was actually something that would happen in Massachusetts. They'd have parts of land that you weren't supposed to ride bikes on, or you weren't supposed to have dirt bikes on, and the EPA would patrol the woods on ATVs to stop these people from riding bicycles and dirt bikes. Those ATVs have emissions, just saying. Ricky L. Hendricks says he heard 2 reports, Trump in limo or the Suburban. It was in the Beast, which I guess is not the presidential limo. I don't know. We'll get there. The Supreme Court sharply curtails the authority of the EPA to regulate greenhouse gas emissions that cause climate change, SCOTUS blog tweeted. Well, I'll have to follow them on Twitter. Yoink. Follow. In a 6-3 ruling, the court sides with conservative states and fossil fuel companies in adopting a narrow reading of the Clean Air Act. Oh, I wish that they didn't say conservative states, because while it's true, that's just going to fuel these people saying that SCOTUS is some rogue conservative entity at this point. As noted by a SCOTUS blog, the central question was whether or not Congress granted the EPA, in Section 111D of the Clean Air Act, the authority to devise emissions caps based on the generation-shifting approach the agency took in the Clean Power Plan. The court ruled that Congress did not grant that authority. So the dispute began in 2015 with the Obama administration's adoption of the Clean Power Plan, a rule that sought to combat climate change by reducing carbon pollution from power plants. The plan never went into effect, however. Several states and private plaintiffs challenged it in federal court, and a divided Supreme Court put it on hold in February of 2016. So people be mad about something that never even happened yet and didn't even take place. Nothing has changed. So the Supreme Court ruling doesn't change anything. Things just continue as they were, and we have the Guardian saying that it is condemning everyone alive, because shock value is what sells in the news these days. Once President Donald Trump came into power, his administration repealed the Clean Power Plan and instituted a different set of rules known as the ACE rule. In January of 2021, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit vacated the repeal of the Clean Power Plan, vacated the ACE rule, and sent the issue back to the EPA for more proceedings. So the Supreme Court then took it up by a request from Republican-led states and coal companies to review that ruling. Meanwhile, the Biden administration EPA has indicated that it will not reinstate the Clean Power Plan and is instead drafting its own rules on greenhouse gas emissions from power plants. So again, nothing changed. Obama tried to put the rule into effect. It got blocked immediately. Trump overturned it. The Supreme Court turned over everything. Biden isn't even going to use it and is going to do something else. And people are all upset and saying the world was going to end because the Supreme Court said, well, Congress didn't tell you you could do that, so you can't do that. Civics. Jesse Meek says the main reason the government doesn't pass laws that allow alphabet agencies to make broad rules is that they know their opponents will eventually be back in power and then have the same authority. Absolutely. I don't know if they have that much foresight, but yes. I mean, that was one of the speculations about the 25th Amendment when people were talking about that to get rid of Trump. well, then you could just use it to turn around and get rid of Biden. That might be actually the reason why they didn't go through with that one. Mr. Twisted72 says over-under on meltdowns over Jordan Peterson joining Daily Wire. So I saw this headline, and I saw that he was banned or suspended from Twitter like the next day. I haven't looked into it much. Not gonna lie, my immediate reaction was a little bit of jealousy. I'm not gonna lie, not like I'll ever be famous enough to be asked to join something like the Daily Wire, but man, would I love that job security. But yes, Jordan Peterson is now part of the Daily Wire and has been suspended from Twitter. I guess it was over some tweet about trans stuff, and he says that he's not going to apologize, so it basically accounts for a ban. Actually, let's see if there's anything. Well, here we go. Right here. Jordan Peterson says, I'd rather die than delete truthful tweet for cancel creeps. A few days ago, I penned an irritated tweet in response to one of the latest happenings on the increasingly heated culture war front in response to the decision of actor named Ellen Elliott Page. I am employing this awkward and impossible multiple naming style because it is now apparently mandatory and probably doing it wrong nonetheless, as you're doing it wrong is the whole point of what has been made mandatory, but also to make a point. So he's been essentially banned from Twitter. I say banned, although technically I've been suspended, but the suspension will not be lifted unless I delete the, quote, hateful tweet in question, and I would rather die than do that, and hopefully it will not come to that, although who the hell knows in these increasingly strange days. What's the tweet? Oh, it's just a link to their social media. Let's see. Oh, okay. Twitter suspends Jordan Peterson after he tweets Ellen Page just had her breasts removed. That was the tweet? Okay. So what's the tweet? Let's see it. What's the tweet? Here's the tweet. Remember when pride was a sin and Ellen Page just had her breasts removed by a criminal physician? Okay. That's okay. That's not that big of a deal. I don't really see what the big deal is about that, but okay. So, that's the dealio with Jordan Peterson and that little aside that we made there. So this probably says about the same as the Daily Wire. So let's look at what the Guardian has to say. It's always fun to read the opinions of people that don't know anything about anything. So the Guardian says that this SCOTUS decision is going to condemn everyone alive. And Mr. Twisted, thank you for saying that I would be great at the Daily Wire. Thank you. Thank you. I would happily take over for Tucker Carlson as well. Like, I wouldn't mind doing that. He makes great facial expressions, and I feel like I could probably mimic a couple of them. Someday. It's just the job security. All right, so The Guardian says limiting the EPA agency at a time when fossil fuel emissions need to be curbed is devastating. Dun dun dun! Amid heat records being shattered across the world and historic wildfires raging across the West, climate activists and policymakers working to aggressively curb greenhouse gas emissions are now facing a new kind of challenge: restrictions issued by the U.S. Supreme Court. I mean, it sounds like it could be a trailer for some really bad political movie. Earlier today, the court issued their ruling in West Virginia versus EPA. This has been classified a devastating outcome by environmental lawyers, climate scientists, and activists alike, one with far-reaching implications for the future of the country and the world. This is because the left accuses the right-leaning justices of the Supreme Court that actually rule on the Constitution as it is written of being activist judges, but then they themselves want the left to be up there and being activist judges. At this point, for those in positions of high power, to deny the urgency and the stakes of the climate crisis is to condemn everyone alive today and generations to come to life in a sick and impoverished world. See, the thing is, it's not anyone denying the urgency and the stakes of the climate crisis. Like, if it's really that urgent and that terrible, then Congress can draft up some bill to give the EPA those powers, or draft up a bill themselves on curbing the emissions. That's all it is. That's what the Supreme Court says. They say if you want to do this, you have to do it through Congress. That's it. But people are saying, oh, well, this means that it can never be done and it can never be a thing, and the Supreme Court is going to destroy the world. If Obama had just done things the right way through Congress to begin with, we wouldn't be in this position. It's because someone fucked up when they originally instituted the policy that it ended up in front of the Supreme Court the way that it did, and the decision came out the way it did. But again, intellectual intelligence of a strawberry. I don't know why I keep harping on the strawberry. I don't know. Strawberries are delicious. Kevin Max says, besides, between a cute baby and a cute dog, Tucker would be toast. I don't know about that. Glenn Zale says that this should affect the ATF. That would be nice. And it might. It's a possibility. I did see Armed Scholar put down a video about a SCOTUS decision that would affect the ATF, and I haven't listened to the video yet, but I would imagine it probably is about this case. Noel72 says, if CO2 is such a threat, how come it is still classified within the approximate 5% of trace gases? I cannot answer that question because I'm not a biologist. Let's see. The court's conservative majority ruled 6-3 in favor of leading coal producer West Virginia in a lawsuit with challenges originally brought by 20 other Republican attorneys general who sued for the EPA to have less regulatory power over existing power plants without express authorization from Congress under the Clean Air Act. In the ruling, the court's conservative supermajority, I hate this kind of reporting, determined that the Clean Air Act does not authorize anything other than direct regulation of power plants. Global climate change is the underlying environmental challenge of this day and age, said senior attorney Frank Rambo, that's funny, who leads the energy program at the Southern Environmental Law Center. Oh, that is a thing. Okay. And the U.S. is the leading contributor to that globally. Okay. The ability of our federal government to get a handle on our contribution to climate change is what's at stake. And of course, Nancy Pelosi says today's ruling by a radical pro-pollution Supreme Court. The Supreme Court did their job of looking at a rule against the Constitution and said, nope, you can't do it this way. You have to go to Congress. And Nancy Pelosi, to just spurn up her base, gets out there on Twitter. Well, actually, it's probably one of her aides, because I don't even know if she knows how to type, let alone use Twitter. Gets up there and says, oh, it's because they're radical and pro-pollution. Really? Really, Nancy? That's where we're going to go? We're going to start calling people pro-pollution for following the law? I hate this. And, 4,500 likes. I wonder how many, oh, wow, okay. It's not as high as I thought it would be. 4,500 likes at this point. Radical Republican Party and their henchmen on the Supreme Court continue their all-out assault on our rights and freedoms. House Democrats will not yield in our fight for the children, for the planet, and for the people. Man, I hope that somebody votes her out. It's likely the ruling will spell trouble for Joe Biden's climate targets, which include cleaning up the electric power grid in order to meet a national goal of 100% carbon pollution-free electricity by 2035 and net zero by 2050. Ugh. Man. 6 right-wing extremists on SCOTUS have dismantled the EPA's ability to fight climate change by taking away their ability to devise emission caps based on the Clean Air Act. This is a crisis of legitimacy. Time to put everything on the table. Term limits for justices. Now, how about term limits for Congress? I would like to see that. I would especially like to see Lindsey Graham get yeeted out of there after he voted in favor of the Senate gun control. These people are so dumb. These are the people of Congress. They should know that all they have to do is draft a bill and try to get it signed and voted. And then they can have their little EPA emissions caps. This person is a they're a candidate for Congress. They know this. And yet they're telling the people, oh, well, SCOTUS said, radical political right SCOTUS says that the EPA can't do this, so we're all doomed. Ugh. Okay. Brian Blackwell says, what about her private jet and limo, right? Ugh. All right, it's 8:21. We're going to go to Trump's limo. First, I'm going to check, let's see. Q says breathalyzer tests for the House and Senate, right? I would like that. And Ramo, thank you for the tip. And hello to new subscribers that are coming on board. Okay, so let's go. All right, let's talk about this ridiculous thing about Trump, the Trump limo grab. Okay, so let's see. Let me see if I can find the exact. Here we go. All right. So this is from. We'll start with the CNN thing. We'll start with the official narrative. All right, and then we'll go over to the truth. So first on CNN, Cassidy Hutchinson stands by her testimony amid pushback. So the January 6th committee, they had their hearings. They scheduled, I think, an emergency one, actually, where they weren't set to meet. And then they had this bombshell, right, where they had to have, like, an emergency meeting. So they bring this woman up here, Cassidy Hutchinson. She is a former Trump White House aide for Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. And she released a statement standing by her testimony. So she testified for nearly 2 hours on Tuesday, as well as gave recorded depositions in advance of the hearing where she vividly described her experience at the White House close to Meadows and then President Donald Trump during the days leading up to and including the Capitol riot. Hutchinson described how Trump and Meadows had been repeatedly warned in advance and on the day of the attack about the possibility of violence, including from armed individuals at the rally. She testified that she had been told that when Trump was informed by security that he would not be going to the Capitol on January 6th, he lunged to the front of his vehicle and tried to turn the wheel with one hand while using his other hand to lunge at Robert Engel, the Secret Service agent in charge that day. She testified that she had been told this story by Tony Ornato, then White House Deputy Chief of Staff, and that Engel had been there as the story was told. Not only this, is she claimed that Trump grabbed the wheel with one hand, right, and was trying to steer the car towards the Capitol while not only lunging at Secret Service, but grabbing the guy by the throat. So he did one of, like, these, according to her. This, like, guy that everyone said was, like, too fat to do much of anything, and this weak, small hand man, according to the left, supposedly lunged to the front of a vehicle, was able to wrench the steering wheel and, like, chokehold a Secret Service agent, according to this woman. After the hearing, a Secret Service official familiar with the matter told CNN that Ornato denies telling Hutchinson that the former president grabbed the steering wheel or an agent on his detail. And they're saying, oh, well, it's because he has a strong relationship with Trump. But there are Secret Service members now that are willing to go under oath to testify that this never happened. There was also apparently something where she said that like Trump got mad and like threw food everywhere and she had to pick it up or something. So she was claiming, I believe, that he was also in a limo, but he wasn't actually in a limo. So this is from Breitbart. So that we have the official narrative there from CNN, and now we have what Breitbart is saying, which actually websites are now saying is a pretty reliable source. So this is from Breitbart. Cassidy Hutchinson fabricated testimony about conversation with former White House counsel Pat Cipollone, I'm guessing. I don't know how to pronounce that one. So, Cassidy Hutchinson, a former White House aide who was the January 6th committee's star witness during a surprise hearing held on Tuesday, reportedly fabricated pieces of her testimony about conversations she had with the former White House counsel. During her testimony, she claimed that Cipollone, told her to tell her boss, Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, that former President Donald Trump should not go to the Capitol on January 6th. She testified that Cipollone said, "We're going to get charged with every crime imaginable if Trump went to the Capitol." The committee's vice chair, Rep. Liz Cheney, doubled down on her calls to get Cipollone to testify before the committee due to Hutchinson's testimony. As we heard yesterday, White House counsel Pat Cipollone had significant concerns re Trump's January 6th activity. So Cheney tweeted on Wednesday, "It's time for Mr. Cipollone to testify on the record. Any concerns he has about the institutional interests of his prior office are outweighed by the need for his testimony." However, he was reportedly not at the White House on the morning of January 6th, according to Human Events senior editor Jack Posobiec. Multiple sources, including one who was at the White House on January 6th, tell me that Cipollone was not there in the morning when Hutchinson testified she spoke with him. This is according to Jack Posobiec, who is pretty damn good at reporting the news and investigating and getting to the truth of things. The January 6th committee is aware of this discrepancy, according to Posobiec, and are ignoring media inquiries about it. It seems that she made up the entire conversation. And I don't even think this article talks about the Secret Service agents that are willing to testify as well that these events never happened. The controversy around her claims of the alleged conversation is the latest blow to her testimony. Posobiec's reporting comes one day after a former Trump White House lawyer disputed Hutchinson's testimony about a handwritten statement she allegedly wrote on January 6th. She testified that she wrote a statement for Trump to release during the Capitol riot. However, former White House lawyer Eric Hirschman insisted that he wrote the handwritten note presented to the committee during Hutchinson's testimony. Who's paying this woman? The handwritten note that Cassidy Hutchinson testified was in fact written by Eric Hirschman on January 6th. His spokesperson said, "Parts of Hutchinson's testimony are also at odds with members of the U.S. Secret Service. The most sensationalized aspect of her testimony was that Trump allegedly tried to take control of the presidential SUV's steering wheel and shouted expletives at Secret Service agents when they prevented him from doing so." However, shortly after Hutchinson's testimony, 2 Secret Service agents in the SUV that day reportedly confirmed their intent to make statements under oath that would contradict her story. So there we go. Not true, according to a whole bunch of folks. She is the only one that says that it's true, and you have to wonder, what is she after? Is someone feeding this to her? Is she getting paid for it? Is she just, dumb and looking for fame? Who really knows? Jesse Meek says, yes, because the plump Trumpinator is such an action star, right? He's, steering it, and he's got this guy by the throat, and he's, Trumpinating him, and he, spins the wheel, and, it goes, and he gets over to the Capitol, and, barrel rolls out. That would be hilarious. But that's not what happened. Pirate King, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, says, honestly, all of this is to distract us from the fact that no one is being charged for being clients of Jeff didn't kill himself, Epstein, and Maxwell. Yeah, I mean, I read that she was put on suicide watch even though she wasn't reportedly suicidal, and they tried to push back her sentencing because of that, and I think, what, did she get 30 years? Is that what the sentence was that came down? Gito says, keep in mind that this woman is one of their star witnesses. Yeah. P. Taylor says she hates Trump for kicking her out of Mar-a-Lago. John Morgan says that she was after a job with Trump when he left office, but she was rejected. Oh, okay. Ah. Oh, okay, it's Pirate King. I get it. Captain Max says, careful, that will be the next Steven Seagal movie. Indiana Troy says, not suicidal, that's for Hillary to determine. 20 years, Q says. Okay, so she got, Ghislaine Maxwell got 20 years. She's not gonna live out that sentence. You know that, I know that, we all know that. Noel72 says the Beast is a modified Escalade since Cadillac quit building large cars several years ago. And do they have, I know limos typically have the divider. Do they have one in the Beast? Because then he would have to also like climb through the little window. Steve Pat says, I worry these people will never be held accountable for all their lies. I mean, they probably won't, if we're being honest. How can anyone have faith in the government when we literally watch them lie daily and do it under oath? Well, darling, I haven't had any faith in the government since approximately 2013. Not gonna lie. We're going on 9 years here. We're almost a decade of not having faith in the government and not trusting the government. So I don't know. I don't know how that'll turn out. The more people that get disillusioned by it, and I think it'll get worse because of all of this crap, right? And then say that the right does win in the midterms, and then they do nothing. People are going to be even more disillusioned after that, and I mean, the House of Cards is starting to fall down, right? And it's going to be interesting to see where all the pieces fall. Tristan Goodrich says only 9. So P. Taylor says he wasn't in the Beast. The Beast has a partition as well. Okay. So I don't know. Okay, so Cowboy Roy Rogers says, yes, you're correct. There's a partition for the safety of the president. I haven't been in a limo, but most of them seem like somewhat small partition to get through. Okay. So I have heard that he was in the Beast. I've heard varying things. Like I think she testified that he was in the limo, but he wasn't in the limo. So, but she's saying the presidential SUV. So let's see. We'll just see. Does the presidential SUV have a partition wall? Okay, so according to this thing, fact check, SUV Trump was riding in did not have a glass partition blocking him from steering wheel on January 6th, according to this rando fact-checked website. The fortified SUV transporting him did not have a glass partition between the front and back seats, so there was nothing that would have prevented him from reaching for the steering wheel if he wanted to. The claim appeared in a Facebook post on June 28th under the title Bringing America Back. Okay. In the video, the narrator refers to the presidential limo known as the Beast and shows a schematic of that vehicle. Okay, so he was not in the Beast. He was in an SUV. Okay. So, the former president erupted in anger at the Suburban that he was riding in. Okay. So, there's no partition in the... He was in a Suburban, and there's no partition in the Suburban. And, like, this picture is supposed to show that. According to this rando website. Wait. Was that like a CNN? Did I see? Award-winning journalist as part of CNN's coverage of 9/11. This guy worked for CNN for 24 years. There's this rando fact checker. So, I don't know, take that with a grain of salt, I guess. So, who knows? No one knows. No one knows at this point. But wow, we actually hit all of the topics today. And it sounds like the baby is silent. That is surprising. I did not think that we were going to get that far. I didn't think that we'd get to everything, actually. Tisha Russo says only 9 years. For me, it's been since the middle 80s. Well, I mean, I as Q pointed out to someone, I was a liberal feminist in college because I didn't know any better, and I voted for Obama in 2008. And I woke up after that, so... I woke up about in, let's see. Well, before 2012, actually, because, Ron Paul. So actually, my distrust of the government, I was basing that on when I started the Liberty Doll page. So it actually started before that then, because I went to the Republican caucuses for Ron Paul. That would have been, what, 2011? Maybe. And I've told this story on the show a few times, but I know that there's some new people here. Basically, what happened is you go to the caucus and you vote for the delegates, and Mitt Romney was running at the time, and there were people for Mitt Romney, his campaign, that were at the entrance of the building, and they were handing out ballots that were pre-filled out for Mitt Romney and Mitt Romney delegates, and they told people you need this in order to vote. So people that didn't know any better took this pre-filled out ballot, and they thought that that's what they had to use. Some people crossed things off. Other people were like, let me go get one of these blank ballots. The Ron Paul delegates won in an overwhelming majority at that caucus, but we had those pre-filled out ballots, and there was a bunch of people that crossed things off and wrote in the Ron Paul delegates. They actually got up on stage and instituted a new rule right then and there, that any ballots that had anything crossed out could not be counted as a vote. There was a huge uproar. There were people there with cameras. I don't know whatever happened to that footage, but in the end, at the end of the day, well, we all know what happened. Ron Paul didn't make it. So, yeah. So Tisha Russo says that yes, there is a partition in the SUV, and that she's seen it up close and in person. Okay. Captain Max says if they were for Mitt, were they really people? People. Douglas from Pennsylvania says, you are doing an amazing job being both a mom and the best darn news source since that white-haired guy on Channel 6. Oh, thank you. That's very, very sweet. It's tough. I'm not going to lie to you, especially now that we don't have any help, but I think I'm getting into more of a rhythm, actually, without having any help. I just know that baby gets tired about every 2.5 hours, and then she'll sleep for 45 minutes to an hour, and so that's when I can jump in and do editing. Today we experimented with her being in her little like bouncer. I took a picture because it was really cute, and I'll show you guys, and then we'll work on wrapping it up. Let's see, so you guys can see my my setup there. And she was in her little hammocky bouncy seat behind everything there. Yeah, hopefully you guys can see it. There's such a lag. There we go. So that's how we did it today, and it worked. She saved all her screaming and blowing raspberries and happy squeals until right after I stopped recording, which was great. Yeah, I mean, the dishes are done. The laundry is done. I don't get to do anything for myself, but hey, that's what motherhood is, right? Okay, we're gonna grab, we got 2 super chats. I missed one. John Krupp says yes, because Facebook fact checkers are so accurate, right? They are notoriously inaccurate. it's going to be interesting to see, like, Elon and how that goes with Twitter. But man, I wish he would buy Facebook and YouTube too. That would fix a lot of problems. All right. We're going to grab this last super chat and we're going to wrap it. Steve Pat says, with how the left always accuses the right of doing what they, the left, are actually doing, does that mean in a few months we'll find out it was actually Biden who was trying to steer a car and fight with Secret Service? I laugh, but the sad thing is, like, it really seems like he has dementia, and folks with dementia do tend to have mood and behavioral problems as the disease progresses, and that would be right in line with some of that behavior. So who knows? Maybe it is. Maybe we'll figure it out someday. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you for the mods and the great job that you guys do every week. Thank you everyone who sent in super chats and tips to help the channel. You guys seriously have no idea how much that helps a little stay-at-home mom like myself. It is very much appreciated. You guys and the folks that are members or that donate through Patreon and Subscribestar, really, you guys are the MVPs here. Mike Fawbush says he can't ride a bike. We know that. Well, I can't ride a bike either, so that doesn't say much. Everyone, have a good weekend. Have a good 4th of July, because that's Monday, right? So everyone, be safe. Do not blow off your fingers or your thumbs with fireworks, please. We need those fingers and thumbs so you can hit the like button. Just kidding. No, I don't want any of you guys to have any bodily injuries. So again, thanks everyone for tuning in, hanging out for the chat. I will see you guys on the next stream and in the next video. Good night.